What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the first edition of the Final Points, presented by Fantasy Points. I am with Fantasy Points' newest golf analyst, Matt Gannon. Matt, how's it going?
Happy to be here. Excited for the Masters. It's the best week of the year as a golf fan. So, yeah, I'm ready to get into it to finally finish it up. We've been talking research all week and we're getting a little tired of it, but let's get our last things off our mind and get ready for tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. So over at Fantasy Points, as Matt kind of alluded to, we've just had a lot of content. So make sure to get over there and subscribe. Most of the content this week was free, but from now on, we're going to have to paywall some of this stuff, especially like Hunter's event and course previews. Might be behind a paywall come next week. There's been a lot of good content out there. Chris Murphy's DFS tiers. There's still more content to come. Hunter's going to be doing a weekend showdown, regression candidates, kind of looking at guys who are trending in the wrong direction. You get access to the golf Discord, historical stats, tournament projections, a lot to still be added to this membership here. You can use either me or Matt's codes. You can go to our Twitters and find those there. However, the Final Points show, this one will be free every week, kind of a pre-lock final show. And then Hunter's kind of course preview live stream on Mondays is going to be free as well. But below, you can see everything that is included with this package. You can do a month. You can do every 3 months, a year, whatever. I mean, if you want to try it out for a month, use a 10% off code. It's going to come down to like probably $16, $17. So if you want to just try it out, feel free to do so. But let's get into it here. So the Masters, Augusta, I'm not going to bore everyone with the little details. I think everybody knows a lot about the course. Weather-wise, it looks like we're going to be in for a little bit of fun, Matt. Have you got a chance to take a look at the weather?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been following Turn On Golf Channel at all this week, you've probably seen there has been a few rain delays and just stuff like that. The par 3 contest got delayed a little bit. Practice has been moved on Monday and Tuesday, I believe. But looking down the week for the rest of the week, I'm not sure there will be any more delays, but there may be a big factor with the wind. And if you've played golf yourself, you know that wind is a big issue. These pros can handle rain pretty. Rain's not a big issue for the pros. If anything, rain can help the best iron players in the world. They could stick these glassy greens at Augusta, so the rain will soften them up. So rain's not the issue. It's the wind. And looking at the forecast later in the week, it's Thursday and Friday morning should be a little bit more calm. But once we get into the afternoon, the wind could become a problem. So maybe in showdown, stack your lineups AM for Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, and I'm not going to look too in depth. I mean, I hate to stack when it's only going to be a couple days. I mean, I'm really looking at Friday being the worst wind day. It looks like the afternoon there, it's going to hit like peaks of 20 miles an hour. From what I'm looking at, Thursday is going to be pretty steady. So obviously to make it through the cut line, you got to be decent in the wind. I'm not going to X a guy out because he hasn't played good when the wind gets heavy over the past year or whatever you want to look at, but it's something to keep in mind. I mean, and I mean, if you're breaking ties and you need to pick this guy or the next, who plays good in the wind, who's going to be able to get through the cut line, who's familiar with Augusta. I think course history could be more important than ever if it plays like it did in 2016, a little bit tougher, windy. You can't really stick the shots that you want to. I mean, like you said, it is going to soften up a little bit just based off of all the rain that they've had over the last few days. However, I wouldn't dig too much into it. If you want to wave and if you're building 20 lineups, sure, make 2 of them an AM PM wave if you think it's going to be that substantial of a difference. But I don't think I'm there, Matt. I'm just going to kind of go with my gut, go with all the research, let that back it up.
Oh, I totally agree. I was just saying, if you were to play showdown, maybe there's an advantage in just a 1-round situation, but I'm not doing anything specific for my full DFS lineups. I don't feel like it's too clear. And if it is clear, then there could be a delay and then totally reverse what you're thinking, like we saw at the players. So it's not worth getting too deep into it. I wouldn't if you think
completely agree. So kind of a little recap of last year. Was the first time that the trend finally kind of went away. We've always seen a guy in really good form come in, win the Masters, and repeat for almost 10, 15 years, however far you want to date it back. Hideki Matsuyama had a poor outing at the match play event, had like a 42nd at Valero, and missed a couple cuts before that heading into the Masters. So a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. But Matt, I'm still looking at form, approach, ball striking. What stats are you looking at the most here this week?
Just like you said, approach and ball striking, but specifically driving distance and just distance in general, because of the rain, because of the softness, because of the way that these fairways are cut so that you don't get rollout to begin with. Add that with rain, you're not going to get much rollout on these fairways. I'm looking at guys who can hit towering tee shots and can carry the ball a long way. Your Rory McIlroys, your Bryson DeChambeau's, those types of players who can hit the ball far.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a key stat this week.
Yeah, I think especially with it being soft, being able to have that extra distance. I mean, we know Augusta's a pretty long course. You're going to want to hit it out there, especially if it's not playing fast like we've seen it before. So I was kind of looking at trends as well. I mentioned it in the betting show yesterday, but guys who missed the cut last year, I noticed some things like just their approach was off, even if their results were good. Some of the guys just weren't hitting their irons very well. They didn't come in great form. Like Rory and Dustin, to be specific, were two of the guys who were priced up in the 10K range last year. Dustin was 11,500 and Rory was 10.2. Rory missed the cut at the Players. Dustin was T48 at the Players heading in. Event before that, DJ was T54 at Mexico in a no-cut event, which is only a 71-player field last year. So towards the bottom, just not playing very good. If you can find little things like that, I'm weighing form as heavily as anything else.
100%. And Scott, I saw your comment about Robert McIntyre. I'm not gonna be playing him this week, but I really do like Robert McIntyre. Obviously, he's a lefty and he's a fader of the golf ball. So you at Augusta, ideally you want a right-handed drawer of the golf ball. Your left-handed fader, that's the same thing. He finished at the Masters. He has one Masters appearance. He finished 12th last year, and he crushed it off the tee as he usually does. But he didn't hit the ball too well with his irons. And looking at Robert McIntyre's player profile, he's not the best iron player in the world. So you're not really going to get a spike iron performance from him this week. But if he can crush it off the tee like he did last year, his player personality and form like sets up well for Augusta. So I definitely think he's a good sneaky pick, but he's getting a little bit too popular. People are starting to realize that he makes sense. Maybe it was the T12 last year, but I'm all for Robert McIntyre.
Yeah, and in his T12 last year, I'll add to that, led the field in birdie or better percentage, which you don't get a whole lot of strokes gain data for the Masters from Augusta in general. Just seeing that he was able to take advantage of some of those opportunities is enough to kind of push it over the edge. So let's get into the 10K range. Let's go top to bottom in DraftKings. We'll start at the very top. Scotty Sheffler comes in at $11,000. Followed by John Rahm, Dustin Johnson are the only three above 10,500. Rounding out that little tier there is Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, and Rory McIlroy. Matt, this group is just absolutely loaded. I mean, you usually see, 4 to 5 guys in your typical PGA Tour event make it into the 10K range on a normal week, but this is the Masters. The pricing is softer once you get down, but they're not going to hand out these guys for free. I mean, the 9K range is soft enough. 7 guys in this range does make sense. Scotty Sheffler, we'll start there. The ownership's interesting to me because, I mean, the form is obvious. Like, Scotty is the hottest player in the world. And that kind of goes hand in hand with him being ranked as the number 1 player in the world. But I just don't think a whole lot of people are willing to go up and play him at $11,000 based off of what I saw.
Right. I'm seeing him around 8% right now. And it's just crazy to think about. If you're a golf fan preseason thinking about the Masters, and someone tells you Scotty Scheffler is going to be $11,000 at the Masters, you're like, no, get out of here. John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Dustin Johnson. Scotty Scheffler is well-deserved the $11,000. But like you said, ownership, people don't think that he's going to win 4 times in 6 starts, including a Masters. And I don't think so either. And if he does, then okay, Scotty Sheffler, you proved me wrong, but I won't be getting there with Scotty Sheffler. And I mean, it's crazy what he's doing. I just don't think he just keeps it up. I'm not.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to keep up. I mean, we talk about guys coming into the event in good form. Scotty's kind of already broken that mold. You
Right.
kind of alluded to that when you said the 3 wins already in this calendar year. No, I don't think anyone would have thought Scotty would be here at $11,000. I was thinking the same thing earlier on in the week. You're right. It's a fair price. You can't really put him lower than that.
Right.
Rom doesn't deserve to be the highest. Dustin, JT. I mean, none of these guys have really made the case to be 11K like Scotty. Up here, a lot of my ownership's going to go towards Justin Thomas. I don't like going with the chalk right now. It looks like he's going to be the most popular player on DraftKings, and I'm fine with eating that chalk, and it usually scares me away. I'm not going to back down this year. The 7th ranked golfer in the world. He was 2nd in the world a year ago heading into the Masters. He hadn't missed a cut since last May at the PGA Championship, so he's just been on fire. Never missed the cut at Augusta, which really comes as no surprise. Gained strokes on approach in 7 straight measured round. And like I said, the form is just ridiculous for JT. So I'm definitely going to be getting there.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Thomas, I did a season preview show talking about all the majors, talking about season thoughts. He was my pick to win the Masters, and this week came. I saw how popular he was. I saw how heavily touted he was in that betting market, and then I'm like, man, how often do we get public winners? We don't get public winners that much. Our last big public winner in the betting market was Justin Thomas at the Players. So maybe it makes sense. Maybe it's his time. The Tiger narrative sets up well for him. I do really think he could win and probably will, but hopefully he doesn't because I just couldn't get there with him just because of how popular he was. And if you're going to be playing him in DFS, which you are, I'm sure you're playing him in damn near every lineup. You have to be heavy on him because he's obviously going to be so popular. And like, he makes sense. He's trending amazingly. He's first in this field the last 50 rounds in strokes gained tee to green. So it's just, there's no argument or case to be made against Justin Thomas. He probably could have won this event last year if it wasn't for the weather delay. Came out, made an 8 on the easiest hole in the golf course when he was making birdie, trying to catch Decky and Will. So, yeah, he's coming to eat. He has bones on his bag, and maybe he got bones on his bag for this event because he's got the history. So, Justin Thomas, there's no argument against Justin Thomas. If you want to play him heavily. That's the only thing I'd say. Play him heavily.
And 10.3K makes it pretty easy to do. I mean, he's not the 11K that Scotty is. We had a comment on the screen a little bit ago. If I want to backtrack real quick, enjoying Oberon tonight. Great choice, Austin. Hope there's an orange in there. And he asked, so far for MME, how much Sheffler would you have in a contest in the min max? I think I would match the field. Even though I'm not on Scotty 100%, given the low ownership, I think you want to at least match that field of the 10 to 12% max that he's going to get to. I would go there. I would go as high as 15% on Sheffler if he's going to come in that low owned because people are afraid to pay up to 11K for him. There's plenty of value down the board to be able to do so.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you guys say. I feel like that's a good amount.
Where else are you at in the 10K range, Matt? So I was kind of back and forth on Jon Rahm. Some concern with where his game's at. I know the finishes were there, but just because of the price tag at 10.8, I think I'd just rather find the extra 200 to get up to Scotty, or like we talked about a little bit ago, just drop down to JT at 10.3. The approach numbers at the Players scare me a little bit. Lost over 6.5 strokes, which was the worst of anybody that made the cut and the 5th lowest strokes gain total of anyone in the event completely, even the guys that missed the cut. So I think I'm out on Rahm. I might have a small sprinkle, but I'm definitely not going to be at where the field is.
Yeah, I'm actually totally opposite of you on that, but it's good that we bounce other opposite ideas off our heads. I'm all the way in on Rahm. If it wasn't for Scotty Sheffler, he'd be the at 11K, 10.9, whatever. He'd be the highest price guy. And why do I like Jon Rahm? He is doing everything except for putt and around the green. I see lose minus 6.6 at the Players, but I'm willing to throw all that Players stuff out. He was on the wrong end of the draw. If you were on the wrong end of the draw, you were literally screwed. You had actually no chance to win or contend. And he didn't hit the ball good. No one hit the ball good at TPC Sawgrass. And what's been bad with Jon Rahm was his around the green and putting. Right. But I think that was because he can't use a greens book this year, and no one can. He comes back to a place where you're never able to use a greens book. He's had great career success putting here at Augusta, so I think that's just good vibes for him. I mean, obviously you can't live and die by the stats. I'm going with a little bit of the narrative thing. I feel like just the same type of vibe. He's been right there kind of before he won that U.S. Open, hitting the ball good. And now it comes to a major, he's kind of getting overlooked. I think it's his time. And he was the same price on FanDuel on Monday and Tuesday, 14-1 as Justin Thomas. And I didn't see anyone bet him really. I feel like no one's on Jon Rahm. The people are forgetting he's still the number 2 player in the world and still arguably the best tee to green player in the world. So I'm still all the way in on Rahm. I got him at 14-1, and I'm very heavy in him on DraftKings.
Yeah, and if he was in better form and say had a win earlier in the year, he's probably sub 10-1
right.
On the odds board. So we are getting him at a decent discount. This whole Sheffler push did push him ahead of Rahm. It would have been him regardless if Scotty hadn't just went unconscious. But got a comment. What's your top 5 finish position plays? Also, do you have any first round finish plays? Any first round leaders? I haven't dabbled in the first round leader market too much. I tweeted out earlier this week the first round leaders throughout the last couple years. Jordan Spieth always pops up. I like a guy with experience to have the lead here in the first round, but I would go Jordan Spieth and Shane Lowry if I'm looking at first round leaders. Top 5 plays, obviously can make the case for anybody on the screen here. We'll get to Shane Lowry later, but I like him as a top 5. I would also probably throw top 5. If you want to get crazy, Billy Horschel.
Billy Horschel. I know you like Billy Horschel. That's he's hitting the ball better than he ever has in his career, and I don't hate that at all. Yeah, Jamie, I see your question, and anyone that I say that I'm going to bet is how I set up my cards. Is I always bet them top 5 as well. So yeah, I bet Jon Rahm top 5, and I'll give you the rest of them as we get there. First round leaders, I'm looking at guys who are playing tomorrow morning before 11 a.m. And look, if you in golf betting, you gotta take a narrative and run with it. You're not always going to be right, but you gotta find a little seam and run with it, because sometimes when you are right, you'll cash big. So I went with longer hitters who are playing in the morning. Guys like Matthew Wolff, Cameron Young, Taylor Gooch, Luke List, and Bryson DeChambeau. So if you're teeing off before 11, you'll catch the wind, you'll catch the right side of the wind, and I'm looking at guys who are either going to shoot a 65 or shoot a 75. That's what you want in the first round leader. You want the volatility. So just a few sprinkles. I never really play first round leaders, but it's the Masters, threw a few bucks at it.
Yeah. Rounding out this 10K range here, Victor Hovland, I'm going to have exposure there. Morikawa, I'm out on just based off of where his game's at from the approach perspective. I mean, it's not to say he can't come and finish second place. I mean, anybody up in this range is here for a reason, but you have to make a stand. You can't just play all 7 of these guys at a high volume and spread it out evenly, because you're just gonna shoot yourself in the foot. Like last year, I said DJ and Rory were up in this range, both missed the cut. So I mean, the Masters, it's not too hard to make the cut, but at the same time, you can't just play these 7 guys. So my exposure up here is probably going to be Scheffler, Justin Thomas, and Victor Hovland. Rahm and DJ are just a little behind them, but Morikawa and Rory, I just don't see myself having much of. Where do you stand with?
Yeah, so obviously I'm heavy in Jon Rahm, and then my other exposure is going to be Victor and Rory McIlroy. For similar reasons. Especially Rory McIlroy, you give him a long wet course, that's where he succeeds. 2011 Congressional, won by 8? Long wet course. All of his Florida success. It's just, I feel like it's the time for Rory McIlroy. Just the course setup originally, and then the narrative. I think the Tiger thing is really helping Rory, because he's not the center of attention. He's not Rory, you're winning the career Grand Slam. He's coming in a little bit under the radar. He's not that popular. His ownership is around, let's see what his ownership's around. Sub 15, 14.
Yeah.
Not like he's too under the radar, but I feel like on a normal year, he's way more than that. And then Victor Hovland, obviously has a huge void in his game, and that's around the green. But that is a stat that you can really avoid if you just are lights out with his approach. And who could be lights out with their long to mid irons? Victor Hovland.
Yeah.
So I went with Scheffler, Rory, and Victor as my exposure up in this range. I also got 22 to 1s on both Victor and Rory. I went with a kind of a top heavy card, and I didn't have any allocation for any bombs really. So I went with Victor and Rory, 22 to 1, and those are my exposure. I started lineups with those three guys usually.
Yeah, touching on Hovland for a second. Last 12 rounds, number one in the field in ball striking and approach. Like we said at the top of the show, the two metrics that we're looking at more than anything, the way he's hitting the ball, the way he's hitting greens in regulation. You don't really have to make a stand and say that he can't chip and whatnot. I mean, it's all right there in front of us. The form is undeniable. 3 wins if you date back to late last fall. He's still 4th ranked player in the field, and he's not really priced that way. Two for 2 lifetime at the Masters, had a 32nd back when he was an amateur, and then a T21 last year. But yeah, if he's hitting greens in regulation, there's not much to worry about around the green. I mean,
and he's like there's no way to say like he's an objectively bad around the green player. That's just what he is. But he's never going to be amazing and crush it around the green and win the Masters in Patrick Reed style, chipping everything in. So, but the thing that I like about Victor around the green this week is last year he gained, I think, 2.8 strokes around the green at Augusta and lost 5 approach. That is like the opposite of Victor Hovland. So I feel like if he comes to a course where he knows he has some success around the green, that's going to be big for his mental. And thinking back last year, he started with a triple bogey and battled back to even par after 6 holes. He can make birdies on this golf course. And if you make a triple bogey on the first hole at Augusta, you're done. Like, he knew probably didn't think I'm not winning anymore, but like realistically, you're done. So obviously you can't do that. You can't start with a 7 on your first hole. I don't think he will. He was just 3 strokes out of the top 10 last year. That triple bogey was huge. And if that finish said T9 or T8 instead of T21, everyone would be on him. So yeah. I think Victor's an awesome play.
Yep. Let's jump down to the 9K range, another range that is obviously flooded with studs. You're going to see that in a major, especially the Masters. So up towards the top, Cam Smith is 9.9, followed by Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Brooks Koepka, Hideki Matsuyama, Will Zalatoris, who finished 2nd last year, Bryson DeChambeau, and Daniel Berger. So pretty loaded range. Obviously, a lot of win equity here as well. This is going to be one of the most important ranges, I think. You have to be able to hit your 9Ks, your second guy in for the most part. I assume most builds start with somebody in the 10K, drop down to the 9, fill in from there. Looking at the top 10 last year, there were 2 guys in the 9K range that ended up finishing inside the top 8. So an important range. Who's your favorite play here, Matt?
You're going to be very surprised with my favorite play here. It's Bryson DeChambeau, actually. And look, I know the injuries, the form, horrible. But like I said, if you want to win GPPs, if you want to win $1 million, you have to be crazy. You have to take stands. And I'm not saying he's my favorite player, and I don't think he will perform well. I'm just taking a stand. And I've said for the past, 2-3 years, Bryson will win a green jacket. The course sets up so perfect for him. And I know he said Augusta's a par 67 for me, and obviously didn't perform well. But when you think at it, look at his ball flight, look at the way he plays golf. The course really is for his game. And at $9.1 thousand, 50 to 1 to 60 to 1 in the betting market, we're never going to get that again. And I know there's a lingering injury, but if you get free time, go watch Bryson in his TikTok house with his weird friends. He would cut off his arm to win a green jacket and fight through any injury. So I'm taking the stand, playing the 9.1K Bryson heavily, and I got him at 60 to 1 on a book. He's down to 50 to 1 now. So we're never going to get this number again on Bryson at this golf course that suits his game perfectly.
And it's not to say that Bryson at 9.1 has to win. I mean, a top 10 finish out of him at that price tag, like you said, 50 to 1, 60 to 1. No, we're not really ever going to see that. And it is He's plagued by the injury a little bit, but he would be up in the 10K range for sure if he was playing his normal self. We just haven't seen enough of him. There's really no question that he couldn't finish top 10. I mean, we talked about it a lot in the beginning of the show. The course is wet. It's soft. It's going to play like that. So having that added distance off the tee, I seen you repost the practice off the driving range or whatever when VJ was standing behind him.
So funny.
He was mashing. I mean, sure, we know he can do that. It's just a video. Still has to hit fairways, blah, blah, blah. But if he's able to do that, maybe he's not as hurt as people think, because he's been saying for quite some time, like, he just wants to get ready for the Masters, get ready for the Masters. So his miscut last week, his poor performance at the match play, I'm not going to bake a whole lot into that.
Yeah, Bryson would give up his whole year to win his Masters. He would injure himself severely, like doing too much, put on a green jacket, and not play the rest of the season. We saw him barely play this preseason just because he wasn't. And I saw a comment that's saying, crazy seeing Bryson is actually putting well this season. Bryson is a historically amazing putter. People who don't really know, people think that Bryson is just a bomber. If you're thinking of Cam Champ, if you think of a bomber who has no other game, that's Cam Champ. Where Bryson struggles sometimes is with his irons and with his chipping. Bryson is an amazing putter, has been his whole career. He's one of the most meticulous and calculated putters on the PGA Tour. Hasn't putted that great at Augusta, I'll give you that, but he's hit the ball great at Augusta in his career. But in his player profile, his whole scheme, he is an amazing top 10 putter on tour last season as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. In GPP play, for sure, looking at sub 5%, I wouldn't imagine he's going to get much over 5. I would say anywhere from 5 to 8. He could pick up a little bit of steam when people see his name, or the casual fan just throws Bryson DeChambeau into their lineups or whatnot. But Matt, in this range, I'm going to be heavy on Jordan Spieth. I don't have to bore you with the course history. We all know that it's there. Spieth just showed me everything that I needed to see last week at Valero. First in tee to green, second in strokes gained approach. Lost 7.2 strokes putting, which is not really his forte. It was by far the worst putting round of his career. And like, looking at it over the past years of Jordan Spieth's career, it wasn't even close. Like, that was by far the worst he's ever putted. And finishing outside the top 30 and being able to finish top 2 in approach and tee to green, it's impressive for me. I wouldn't expect the putting trends to continue. I like that he's pushed outside of the 10K range. Anytime you're going to give me Spieth at $9,800 at the Masters, I'm plugging him in, regardless of the form. He was in better form last year, sure, but it's a place that he knows well. It's a place that he'll be able to navigate through. And I don't know. I just think Spieth is in a really good spot here, regardless of what happens with the weather. How do you feel about Spieth?
I mean, yeah, you don't have to sell anyone on Jordan Spieth at Augusta. It's a no-brainer. Like we know, Jordan Spieth, he does awesome at Jordan Spieth courses. We saw what he did at Pebble Beach in no form. We saw what he did. I mean, he didn't have a great result last week. That's a course he's had great success on. He hit the ball amazing, didn't make any putts. And then now in Augusta, he does well at those courses. He doesn't need form. You give him a little bit of form, just that little bit of trending, 7+7 approach. That's awesome. I'm not going to be getting there just because simply I couldn't fit him. I liked other guys, some higher guys better. And I see some comments saying that, like, about the Bryson, it's obviously doesn't make that much sense, but you got to take stands. You got to be different if you want to win GPPs and come high in GPPs. You got to be crazy, but that's why I picked Bryson. But yeah, Jordan makes a lot of sense. Like, he should perform well here. I'm not going to be able to fit him there, but I think he will do awesome.
Yeah, and taking a stand on Bryson, if you're building 20 lineups and you put him in 2 of them, you're doubling the field. Exactly. So it's not like you're going to live and die on a hill with Bryson.
Right.
It's interesting from an ownership perspective for sure. Got comments from Austin, Xander. I like the form, missed the cut at the Players, but really didn't play horribly. Outside of that, he's been a machine this year. 12th at Tournament of Champions, 3rd at Phoenix, 13th at Genesis, 12th at the Valspar. Was the last time that we saw him outside of the match play event, but was really good from approach and tee to green in all but the Players. So I do like Xander. It's just tough for me being priced so close to Spieth. I'm going to have a little bit of him just because I think I'm out on Cantlay, I'm out on Brooks, and I'm out on Hideki for the most part. Cam Smith is going to have to make his way into a couple of my lineups just based off of his form alone too. I mean, he's had Scotty Sheffler-esque form throughout this season with 2 wins already. So I like Cam and Spieth, but Xander's a close third, fourth in this range.
I also like Xander a lot. He rated out 4th in my model, and that's kind of scares me because I love betting Xander, and he never models out well for me. So now that like I already knew I wasn't going to bet him, and he modeled out well, I'm like, all right, am I really not going to miss this Xander week? But I mean, you said he didn't do well at the Players, and his numbers were bad, but he was 4 under, 3 shots off the lead. Weather delay, went out the next morning. His first shot was on 17 in literally 40-mile-an-hour winds. And then he made like a 8 on hole 18 when he chipped the ball and the wind blew it 50 yards back. He was fine up until the weather. But like I said, with Rahm, you can throw out the players' data. If you were on the wrong side of the draw, you were absolutely screwed. I think Xander is trending fine. The only thing that scared me was his off the tee at the match play. I know there's not really stats for that, but I watched like every shot from that, and he was kind of spraying it everywhere. I know you have a little bit more room here at Augusta. Course history is awesome. Can he put it together on the back 9 on Sunday? That's the real question. But Xander, I do like your where your head is at with Xander.
Yeah, rest of the range, like I said, out on the next few guys. Up to Will Zalatoris. I do like where Zalatoris' game is at. Came in last year in his first attempt, finished second, was right in it for, I mean, basically the whole time. It wasn't much of a surprise because he came into the event on fire. He had made 11 straight cuts, three top 10s, and 8 of those 11 were top 25s. So the form was clearly there. He was priced at $7,300 last year. For whatever reason, he was fairly popular, even being a first timer. But I'm going to go back to the well there with Will Zalatoris, and then below him, Daniel Berger. Matt, you'll get to know this. I'm a big Berger guy, but this isn't
Love
the week.
Yeah,
not for me at least.
Yeah, I love Boog as well. I bet him at the Honda Classic. I was at the Honda Classic, watched that happen in person. It was not fun. But yeah, I don't think this is the week for him as well. He's a big fader of the golf ball, doesn't hit the ball the longest, and I think it just doesn't set up well for him. So yeah, I'm all the way out on Berger. Quick on Will Zalatoris. I know you like him. I am probably the biggest Will Zalatoris fan in the world. I love him. I've been following him since Wake Forest. I bet him last year to win the Masters at 167-1, and I'm a firm believer of that weather delay happening on Saturday. After that weather delay, Hideki Matsuyama had one of the greatest back 9s in Augusta National history, stuck everything, and he was not doing that if the course is firm. So, and obviously Will Zalatoris almost came back and won that one stroke. So, I mean, had that lost by one stroke. So I think he's ready to come back and play some awesome golf. Sadly, I won't be able to get to him because of where my other guys I like most, but the putter is obviously an issue. He gained 6.3 strokes putting at Augusta last year, and I'm seeing that being said a lot. I promise you he's not going to do that again. He might putt well. He's not going to gain over 6 putting again. So I feel like he's a little bit too popular, which is another reason I'm not going to get on him, but I really hope he does well. I just want to see him succeed. So sadly, I can't get there, but I like Will a lot.
Yeah, one of the comments we just had on the board, thoughts on Siwoo at plus 550 and Spieth plus 310 to finish top 10. Love like the Spieth bet. Siwoo, I don't hate it. I don't think I'd be as aggressive as going top 10. He rates out well for me, but not to the point where I'm confident saying that he's going to finish in the top 10. He was just outside last year. He's made the cut at 4 straight Masters, so he's played well here in the past. And then Henley and Lowry top 20 finish. We'll get to that, Jamie, because yes, on both.
Yes. Are we going down to like 8K? The 70? Yeah. Are we going to the sevens or no?
Oh yeah, we're gonna go all the way down, top to bottom.
Okay, so I'll wait. I'll give you my Siwoo take when we get there.
All right, 8K range. Ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So $8,900. Louis Oosthuizen comes in as the highest price in this range, followed by Shane Lowry, Taylor Gooch, Sam Burns, Tiger Woods, Sung J M, Adam Scott, Joaquin Neiman, Tony Finau, and rounded out by Tyrell Hatton. So, been shouting it all week. Said it in the betting show yesterday. It's about as low as I go in the outright market. But Shane Lowry, I'm all in this week, Matt. Maybe I have some type of bias because I have him in my season-long league, trying to block that out because I can get a little tunnel vision when it comes to this stuff. But back-to-back top 25s at the Masters. Had a T21 last year, which was his best finish at this event. He did struggle early on in his career, but obviously turned that around. He's got a proven track record when it comes to major championships. Won the 2019 Open Championship and has 5 additional top 10s at majors. What I really like is that he enters the week in great form. He's made his last 7 cuts worldwide, and he's finished no worse than T24 in those events. Over the past 12 rounds, he ranks inside the field's top 3 in approach, ball striking, bogey avoidance, and par 4 scoring. 4 metrics that I'm looking at heavily this week. Rates out as good as anyone for me heading into the Masters this week.
Yeah, I love Shane Lowry also. He's got the complete game. He all 4 facets of the game. He is awesome. He has similar form now as to he had when he won the Claret Jug. So yeah, there's no reason that Shane Lowry can't perform well. Maybe the driving distance, but even then, he'll be fine. I like the Shane Lowry call. I won't be getting there because I'm going to be heavily on the next guy, but yeah, Shane Lowry. I like him a lot.
Taylor Gooch, you're heavy on, huh?
Yeah, I'm heavy on Taylor Gooch, and like I'm going to be very, very, very contrarian this week. Taylor Gooch is 110% the most mispriced player in this field. He should be low 8, maybe even lower than that. But from betting other sports, this is what caught my eye. This is why I dug so deep into it. You see a misprice, a misline in a college basketball game, football game. You're like, this makes no sense. And then after the game, you're like, wow, Vegas was right on. They knew. So you're seeing $8,700 Taylor Gooch in his Masters debut. But then you look into his player profile, what type of player he is. He is a very long off the tee and very inaccurate off the tee. Checks out for Augusta National. He is one of the best. He's top 10 in weighted strokes gained approach in this field in the last 50 rounds. One of the best iron players in the world. And he's first in this field in 3-putt avoidance with having an elite short game. It makes sense. And I'm not saying Taylor Gooch is going to will Zelotaurus his way to a second place finish in his Masters debut. But at that price tag, 3% owned, I'm all the way in on Taylor Gooch.
Yeah, the 3%'s it's intriguing. I don't think I'll get there. I like that you're taking a stand there. Obviously, you said a lot about what he does well, how it's going to translate here. Yeah, it is a misprice, which is going to push
100%.
his ownership down. But checking your boxes, sure. Why not? So,
Yeah.
Got a comment here, Austin. With the weather concerns, Lowry and Hatton. I'm right there with you. I mean, you think about when Shane Lowry took second at the Honda, the weather got dicey towards the end. It was dicey for, a majority of the week there. Unfortunately, it really started to downpour when he stepped onto the 18th tee box and kind of gave that to Sepp Straka. But yeah, when you're thinking weather, you're thinking Shane Lowry, a guy who played a lot on the European tour early on in his career. Same with Tyrell Hatton. Hatton at $8,000, very affordable. That's always a sweet spot, the low 8s, upper 7s. You'll find yourself in that range towards the end, towards the middle of your builds if you are hand building. I like both of the guys. So that's where I'm at. Tiger, how do you feel? We got to touch on him a little bit. At 8,500, not on DraftKings for me. If you want to play Tiger in DFS, go over to FanDuel. I think the ownership's going to be higher than – I don't think you can even project his ownership really just based off of the public coming in and kind of throwing that off a little bit.
It really depends on what contest you're playing, I would say, for the Tiger call. If you're playing a high-stakes contest where it's professional DFS players and guys who do this on a week-by-week basis, I don't think he'll be low end at all. But if you're playing a $15, $20 contest with just public guys, I feel like it'll be higher up. And I'm not betting him to miss the cut. I'm not touching him at all. I'm just like, Tiger, do your thing. I'm not, because there's so many outcomes that could happen. He hasn't played a competitive round in 17 months, but he looks good from the eye test. But you can take whatever stand you want, but I'm just going to watch and see what Tiger does. I wish him the best, but I'm going to go with a T39 from Tiger.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, you can take a stand on Tiger, all in, all out. I'm taking the same approach as you. I'm glad you said that. I'm just kind of going to sit back, watch, enjoy, and kind of let it run its course. If I miss, I miss. I'm willing to take that stand. It's just hard for me to get to him at $8,500 when you look at the guys he's sandwiched in between. These are guys who have been playing elite golf for a majority of the last year, 2 years, 3, dating. I mean, you can look at any of these guys. There's a lot of elite players, especially in the 7K range, the more that we go down. But it's a stay away for me at DraftKings. Like I said, cheaper on FanDuel altogether. So you can play him over there if you want exposure to him. But I mean, if you want the low ownership, I think in a high dollar single entry, he's going to be 5% or less. I just don't see the people playing the bigger single events to really get there. Anyone else you'd like in this range that you want to highlight?
I'm just going to second what you said about Hatton, unless you want to go deeper into him. I love Hatton. I was actually a little bit slow to get there. I was not going to bet him, or I didn't bet him. I wasn't going to play him at first, but the way he fit into my lineup, then I dug into him a little bit deeper. Obviously, the course history is a little shaky, but I like the way he builds, and especially in wind. Awesome. Adam Scott should do awesome here. He's obviously a former Masters champion. He's hitting the ball really good with his irons. Driver's a little shaky, but he's putting. He's finally putting. Like, I don't know how Adam Scott could have been one of the worst putters in the world, and now he's having, maybe it's the old guy, Louis Oosthuizen type thing. You just become a great putter as you age. Kind of checks out. But yeah, that's really where I'm headed. I'm just going to take the Taylor Gooch route and just be so contrarian, because I'm not playing any cash games. I'm playing like the $100 GPPs. So I'm just, that's the best part about like golf betting and stuff like that. You have to be right one every 10 weeks, and you'll have an awesome week, and then you're good. You're good. I'm not playing these cash games where it's just 50-50. I'm trying to hit the big one. So you got to take stands. You got to be contrarian and crazy sometimes.
Exactly. Comparing that to DFS, I mean, you could bet, say, $100 on Taylor Gooch to top 5. If he finishes T12, you could still take down a tournament. That's the beauty in DFS. You take a stand on a guy, you really like him, you just throw him in your lineup and let him do his thing. I mean, you're not crossing your fingers that the guy finishes inside the top 10, heading into the back 9. It's just a 4-round race, and if your guy is up there, he's up there. There's no certain threshold that he has to pass. So DFS is a completely different game than betting. So to piggyback off you on Hatton, Austin in the chat mentioned it a little bit. Weather. If you're thinking bad weather, you're thinking Tyrell Hatton, European Tour guy, kind of like Lowry. Good finishes as of late. 21st at the Valspar, 13th at the Players, 2nd at API. Those are his 3 events heading into the Masters. That's the type of profile I'm looking for. Approach has been on, gaining strokes in all of those, with it getting substantially better, kind of peaking at the Valspar. So I like Hatton. Hunter in the chat, thoughts on Neiman this week? Have an outright on him too. If we're talking form, you can't really deny what Neiman's done either. Before his win at the Genesis, he had a T6 at the Farmers, finished 22nd at the Players. Neiman's approach has been really good. He's been really good off the tee. He's been really good from tee to green, especially in his win and his T6 at the Farmers Championship. I'll have a little sprinkle of Neiman. I don't mind him from an outright perspective. History at the Masters isn't great, but when you only have 2 events under your belt, I'm not going to look at it too in depth. Missed cut and a 40th last year. How do you feel about Neiman?
He's only 23 years old, and he's only getting better. The only thing that would concern me is he's not going to be able to hit those tee shots that go 260 yards in the air and then roll out to 360 because the fairways will be a lot softer than they normally would be. But at the same time, he'll be able to hit it under the wind. He's playing with Tiger Woods. You can't say if that's going to help him or hurt him. It's either going to help him a lot or hurt him a lot. Pick a side. I'm not going to play him, but he's great with his long irons, which is awesome. Putted last year he finished 32nd or something like that, or 40th.
40,
Gained 3.3 strokes putting, which is awesome. So he's done well here. He's done great at the comp courses. Obviously, just won at Riv. Yeah, Niemann makes sense, and maybe he'll get a little boost from playing with Tiger. We'll see. I'm not gonna get there with Niemann, but I like the Niemann call.
All right, ready to jump down into the 7Ks?
Yep.
Let's do it. So right at the top, Abe Answer with a fresh mustache. Right at first, I liked it, but now I saw a couple pictures. It's a little creepy. So,
scary.
I don't know how I feel about it. We'll see how Abe plays, obviously. Coming off of an injury, we're not 100% sure. Golf injuries are so just weird. I mean, you don't get a whole lot of information. Obviously, I don't think he'd be playing if he wasn't feeling 100%. So injury concerns, kind of throwing that out the window, but I'm really not on Abe Answer. I'm bouncing straight down to Russell Henley. And Jamie, you kind of talked about, would you bet Henley for a top 20 finish? Absolutely. Since his playoff loss to Hideki at the Sony Open earlier in the season, Henley's shown us a lot of consistency. He's a perfect 6 for 6, 4 top 15 finishes, making his first trip to Augusta since 2018, actually, where he finished T15, 4 of 6 lifetime at the Masters. Best finish was back in 2017, T11 this season, leads the field in strokes gained approach, 4th in tee to green. Like I said, the approach, really, if you look at it, Henley's approach has been up there for, it seems like 2 years now. I mean,
amazing.
Every time I sort by strokes gained approach, or you look at an event and see how someone did on approach, Russell Henley's there. Most recent event is the Players, where he led the field in strokes gained approach, finishing outside of the top 10. I mean, he gained a ton of strokes at TPC Sawgrass. So I'm all in on Henley. $7,800 is a beautiful price tag. I'm going to be very overweight on him.
Right. Yeah. And you're going to have to be overweight on Henley because I feel like he's getting semi-popular for good reason. I don't know if you saw, but DraftKings had him at 35-1 at one point, which to win the whole thing. Insane.
I think it's still there.
It's crazy. I mean, same thing as the Taylor Gooch thing. Maybe the book just knows. But I feel like you've got to be out of your mind to bet Russell Henley at 35-1 in this field. If you do, like, best of luck to you, but I will not be getting there with Russell Henley. I'm just scared of his long irons. I mean, he's a great iron player, but he's just so good with those wedges and mid irons, and he's not the longest player in the world to hit these fairways that are going to be soft. But at the same time, like, he just crushes approach no matter where he goes, and he has good course history. And I would say he's an objectively better player now than he was back then, and he's still finished solid. So yeah, Russell Henley, if you're going to want to play him, he's going to have to you're going to have to be overweight because I feel like he's nearing 20%. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think he's going to be just under 20%. Could get there, really. Carp just threw a comment out there. Let me get back to it.
Talking about
awkward
Niemann.
Swing, makes a few moves, wouldn't teach on purpose, but when it's on, it's excellent. Love seeing that he's playing with Tiger tomorrow. Yeah, you can take that whole Niemann thing either way. I'm not going to look too much into it. I don't think it's going to intimidate any guy. I get he's young, but the way that Niemann's been playing, he's been here a couple times. This will be his 3rd trip. So, yeah, I'm with you, Carp. Who else do you like here in the upper 7Ks, Matt?
In the upper 7K range, obviously. Oh no, he's more. I guess I'll say Corey Connors. If it wasn't for the ownership, I would probably be playing him. But if we see tomorrow that he's the most owned guy in out of anyone, I'm not surprised. The ball striking is just ridiculous. He's had some decent success. He looked like he putted lights out at WGC. Obviously, we don't have the best numbers at the match play. I mean, according to Zinger, he's the greatest putter in the world, but he's just not the greatest putter in the world. He's one of the best approach players in the world. Corey Connors, awesome. Won't be getting there on the because of the ownership. No one really else catches my eye up here. I'll wait till we get down to the bottom for me to talk about someone more I like. Who are you liking up here?
I think Paul Casey's ownership is interesting. I'm
Mhm.
seeing him sub 10%, but I wouldn't be shocked if he gets under like 7-8%. I mean, the price tag alone could push it down. The injury, him withdrawing from all three of the match play events, but I think that was really in precaution to being 100%, being fully healthy to play at Augusta. We've seen him play here a number of times. His stretch from 2015 to 2017, finished 6th, 4th, and 6th. 15th the year after that in 2018, and then broke everyone's hearts in 2019. I remember he was very popular, ended up missing the cut. Made this last two, nothing too impressive, but when you get Paul Casey down in this price range, it gets interesting.
Right.
Last event, 3rd at the Players. He's gained strokes on approach in every event since the CJ Cup in 2020. So since the first of the year in 2021, he's never lost strokes on approach. That's something you like to see, even if he was battling an injury earlier on this month or whenever it started, because we don't really know. He didn't really show any signs of slowing down.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you just had to withdraw, but you're getting a Paul Casey at decent ownership at a very good price. I'm not sure if it was the last Masters or the November Masters. I think he was the first round leader at like 6 under. Might have been the November Masters, but I mean, I know that didn't show in his recent results. It finished like inside the top 40 or something like that. But he's shown he can go low at Augusta, and I feel like he might be a solid leverage play too because I don't see the ownership getting as high as it might be projected right now. But we'll see. I'm not going to get there on Paul Casey, but I feel like he could be a solid play.
Yeah. Top two, I mean, if we're rounding out the top, I don't see myself getting to Sergio at all. He fits the exact profile of a guy that I'm trying to avoid. Lost strokes on approach in 4 straight measured events, just not been good. The course history is going to be there, sure. He's got a green jacket. I just can't get to Sergio at this price point. I like Fitz up here. Fleetwood's interesting, but I think it's towards the top of the 6K range for me. It's just going to be Henley, Casey, and then probably a sprinkle of Webb Simpson and Corey Connors.
So my 7K plays that I'm going to be most heavily on are actually going to be Bubba and Siwoo.
Okay.
I'm not a Bubba guy. I don't think I've ever bet him like ever or like really ever play him, but I'm just going so high into the driving distance narrative, and he's getting older, and I still can't believe how far he hits the ball with still moving it. It's just crazy. Obviously, 2-time Masters champion. He knows this place well, and he's hitting the ball far. It wasn't too much of a intricate play. Great ownership, great price. I'll take the Bubba because it's of the narrative. And then Siwoo, we mentioned him a little bit earlier. He's played the Masters 4 times or 5 times, and he's gotten better almost every time. He finished 12th last year, and I don't know if you remember, but he broke his putter on like hole 14. Had to
Yep.
putt with a 3-wood or a hybrid or something like that because he missed a little putt. And I'm sure if he didn't do that, he would have T10'd, and maybe the narrative would have been a little different. And Siwoo is sneaky long. The thing that is his downfall is he's either a spike iron player or a horrible iron player. He's coming off of a few decent weeks, so hopefully we can get one of those spike iron weeks, and it could set up well for Siwoo with some good vibes from the last year.
Yeah, and back to your Bubba point, had a 2nd place finish in the Saudi event where Varner ended up winning 14th the week after at Phoenix, I believe. And then, long off the tee, obviously knows his way around Augusta. So I could definitely see getting to Bubba. So ready for my Billy Horschel spiel?
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I just think it's a fantastic price. And you said you're not a Bubba guy. I'm really not a Horschel guy just because he's typically priced so aggressively. He really presents a good balance of form and course knowledge. I know a lot of people are going to throw the whole course history, doesn't have very good finishes here at the Masters in my face. But since 2014, his first year playing the Masters, he's played the Masters ever since 2014, only missing 2017. In those 7 events, best finish T17. So 7 tries, hasn't cracked the top 15. Sure, it's not great. I mean, the T17 was back in 2016, but 2016 was also the year where the wins picked up, and it did get a little bit dicey when Danny Willett won. So outside of his T17, doesn't have another finish inside the top 35. Making the cut only means so much at Augusta. 2014, he had a T37, followed that by making the cut each of the last 3 times he's played here: T56, T38, T50. I don't care about the course history. He's making it through to the weekend, and his best finish was when the weather got a little bit dicey. Speaking of his recent form, he's been great. I mean, he's made the cut in 17 straight worldwide events. If you exclude the players, which he did make the cut and just withdrew with a non-COVID related illness, form has been fantastic. 5 top 10s since his missed cut, with a win at the BMW Championship late last year. The last time he missed a cut was the U.S. Open back in June. So going on nearly a year where he hasn't missed the cut. The WGC Dell Technologies match play T9 made it out of his pod. So obviously the illness he withdrew with at the Players went by fairly quick. Before that, T2 at API, T16 at Honda, T6 at Phoenix, T11 at the Farmers. He's got the form I'm looking for. His approach game is exactly what I'm looking for. $7,400. I'm all in on Billy.
You're selling me.
Not saying he's going to win it, but I definitely think he can do better than his T17, which is his best finish at the Masters to date. It's not going to be a lot for him to beat that. And it's not crazy to say that T15 Billy Ho's in the winning lineup. At $7,400, you can do worse.
You're selling me on Billy Horschel, and this is the time you're going to want to play it. The last time he's gained in 4 consecutive weeks on approach was in 2019. So he's hitting the ball like as good as he has in his whole career. But I know I didn't think Billy Horschel, because when you think of Billy Horschel, you think of wet Florida courses, obviously where he grew up, where he makes his money in Florida every single year. But he's trending and hitting the ball well. Add the weather in there, you might have found something with this Beho call. I like where your head's at with this Billy Horschel, Dom.
Yeah, and ownership wise, I haven't looked too much at it.
7%.
Honestly just started. Yeah, he's going to be sub 7. I don't think he's going to be there. People live and die by course history at the Masters. Like I said, I'm not saying, he's made 5 of 7 cuts, he's going to do great. Those cuts were like 50th, 56th. Like I said, they weren't great finishes, but at the same time, he's playing great golf. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I definitely like where your head's at with Billy Horschel. Might need a late night tanker and throw him in some of my lineups.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. Justin Rose, $7,500, another guy who finished in the top 10 last year, struggling as of late in his approach game, but for everyone that loves course history, 15 of 16 in his career, missed cut back in 2019. He's got 6 top 10s, finished second here twice. Obviously, everyone recently remembers the playoff loss to Sergio. I'm not getting to Rose. I tried talking myself into it, but it's just he's not where I would like him to be for me to play him at that number. Outside of that, Patrick Reed, not on him. Max Homa, I think I will have a little sprinkle. He's been rating out really good for me, especially as of late. So I do like Homa, even though he hasn't shown a whole lot at major championships. Outside of that, Luke List rates out well for me. Don't think I'm all in on that. I think I would rather almost play Cam Young or Bobby Mack at 7K. But is there anyone else at the bottom of this range that you're going to be sprinkling?
No, I like the Siwoo and Bubba. I'm going to go heavy with them. But Homa makes sense. I feel like he's going to be popular, especially in the non-heavy contest, because people know the name. People know the name from Twitter. He's promising the Barstool guys he's going to make the cut, which I do think he will make the cut. But you're gonna need more than a T49 from him if you're gonna want to play him. So, which we'll see. If he's trending, this is probably the best golf he's been playing in his career, going into a major. Obviously, as a win already this season. So, I like Homa. If I had to go to someone, it'd be Homa. But that's 6Ks? It. Yeah. Let's hit the 6Ks.
So the 6K range. this is a spot where I've always said you can cross out names. The Masters is just about the only event of the year where you can literally go through and cross out a handful of these names. You can get rid of the amateurs. You can get rid of the past winners. I was looking at crossing out about 12 to 15 guys, so you're not going to have to get too deep in here. I don't see you having to go under 6,200 for any reason.
Definitely not. You might have a problem if you do. I would not.
The only guy, we'll get to it, but there's one guy at 6K who I would maybe consider if you loved your lineup and were left with 6K magically. But outside of that, not going to want to do it. 6K range last year, looking at the DraftKings pricing, Mark Leishman was $6,900, finished T5. Corey Connors last year was $6,900 as well, finished T8. So you can get a top 10 finish out of a guy down here. It's not crazy. I mean, Leishman and Connors. Leishman last year, I kind of went and looked to see like how bad is he playing. I mean, I think he struggled in the fall the year before in 2020, but he was 6 for 8, making the cut heading into it. Back-to-back missed cuts before the match play, so that's where the 2 missed cuts out of the 8 events came from. T4 earlier in the year at Sony, so a high-end finish that you saw. Austin here said Woodland and Sepp can't cross them out. Yeah, I was talking about like 6,200 and below, but speaking of Woodland, let's get into it. $6,900. I just said Connors and Leishman landed there, finished top 10. If I want a guy in the 6K range who I think is going to finish top 10, it's Gary Woodland for me. 5 for 9 lifetime at Augusta. Made the cut in 2 of his past 3 tries. His best finish was a T24 in his Masters debut back in 2011. Not great. Maybe I just like guys who played Augusta a lot and just don't do good, because I'm finding myself playing Billy Horschel and Gary Woodland, 2 guys who kind of have the same trajectory heading in here when it comes to course history. But looking at recent form, made the cut in 4 of his past 5 events, no worse than T21. In those 5 events, 3 of them, the 3 others, were top 10s. Back-to-back top 5s earlier in the season at the Honda Classic, at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. The type of form that I like seeing. Looking at the approach game, everything's there. Popping in my models as of late. I like Gary Woodland a lot at $6,900.
Yeah, and Gary Woodland's last 2 starts on longer, firmer, windier golf courses. T8 last week and 5th place at Arnold Palmer, which he could have won if he didn't hit that bad bunker shot. Gary Woodland checks all the boxes. I'm with you on Gary Woodland.
Outside of that, looking down the board a little bit, what he mentioned, Kisner, Sepp. I'm not getting to Kisner. I know he's getting a lot of heat this week about people just saying that they're not going to play him. It's really a pricing for me. If you gave me a Kisner down at 65, 64, I'd consider, but just based off of him being so closely priced to Gary, I'm not going to have too much. Tom Hoagie's interesting to me, though. If I'm looking at playing a guy who's a first-timer, it's Tom Hoagie for me. The form is evident. The approach game is evident. I mean, I wrote him up in my FanDuel value plays as a guy who I'm looking at. He's very similarly priced on FanDuel and DraftKings, so you're not really gaining anything on either. But, I mean, this is a guy, Tom Hoagie, who's been on the PGA Tour since 2011. Finally made his way into the winner's circle at Pebble Beach, ultimately pushing him into the Masters here. Since his win, missed the cut just once in his last 4 events. Gained strokes off the tee and on approach in these 4 events, even the one that he did miss. Top 6, if you're looking from a season-long perspective on approach, tee to green, ball striking, and you're getting him in the 6K range. I mean,
yeah,
T33 at the Players a few weeks back, finished 4th in the field in strokes gained tee to green. Wasn't too great when it comes to putting. I'm not worried about him not having experience here. He's been on the PGA Tour long enough. I mentioned 2011, finally got his first win, finally making his first trip to Augusta. I like Tom Hoagie a lot.
Yeah, absolute flusher of the golf ball, can stripe the hell out of it, which is what you need at Augusta. I originally had him in my player pool, and I do like him, but I really narrowed it down and just went with the ugliest possible things to follow my narrative as I could do, which is I went with Cam Champ and Matt Wolff. I am the biggest Cam Champ hater. Not even like I don't like him. I am like a Cam Champ, I don't like you, Cam Champ, because Cam Champ is who people think Bryson DeChambeau is. Just hits the hell out of the ball and can't do anything else. That's literally what Cam Champ is. But I'm talking about the driving distance narrative this week. And you look at Cam Champ's Augusta history, he might have this place semi figured out because he's came in with not great form and just has done well. And then my Matt Wolff case is the same thing. My Matt Wolff case is a little bit different. He's the most mental golfer on the tour, and I know he's had some issues, had to take some time off. That is what it is. But even when he's in the right headspace, if he has a bad round, it's over. Like a bad start to the round, it's over. I followed him closely at the Honda Classic. He started like bogey. From there, head down. He was checked out, shot like 10 over, literally 10 over. The reason I'm playing him this week, obviously the driving distance. He's fourth in driving distance on tour this year. But I'm playing him because he tees off early when it's going to be calmer. And if he can get off to a 1-under start, I feel like, all right, I'm game. I'm ready to go. At 1% owned, we see a ceiling golfer. Like I'm saying, I'm going for the volatility. I'm going to make a stand and win the $1 million. Like I want to finish T5 in one of these big GPPs. It's not pretty, but Matt Wolff has the same possibility to finish T5 as he does to miss the cut by 10 strokes, like the same amount of possibility. It's ceiling or floor with Wolff. So I'm just going to bank on a ceiling performance and get him at 6,500.
Yeah, nobody possesses as much upside as Matthew Wolff.
Right.
At $6,500. You just don't see that very often. If you pull up his stat sheet, strokes gained top to bottom has been horrible. But like you said, off early, hits the ball a mile. I mean, say the Masters was the first event of the year, if he had his end of season fall form, tell me I'm wrong, but he could be pushing $8,500, $8,600 because 100%. He ended the fall second at the Shriners, fifth at Mayakoba, 11th at Houston. And then once the calendar flipped, his game flipped. He just completely fell off a cliff. Hasn't gained strokes on approach since the Shriners back in October. It's been very poor. But if you look like gaining strokes driving distance, he's not lacking anything there.
No, and you know how many people I saw bet Matt Wolff 100-1 as a Masters future, thinking he'd be down in the 50-35 range. And obviously, like you said, calendar flipped, his game switched. You can get him at like 300-1 now. But like I've been saying, I'm banking on the ceiling. Right, like a big GPP. I want to either come in the top 10 or be nothing. So I'm banking on a ceiling performance from Matt Wolff.
All aboard the Hoagie train. Hunter's on that one as well. Love to see it, especially in this price range. I'm gonna be on Hoagie. There's not a whole lot of intriguing plays down here. Austin, thoughts on Reed? Talked about it a little bit. The form's just not there for me. Course history, you can look at that all you want, but I'm just not getting to Patrick Reed. The price is fair. The price is intriguing, but he's just not shown me a whole lot this year.
Like literally the worst form of his career when you look at the strokes gain numbers. And even when he did win the Masters, he holed out putts from places no one holds out putts from and chips and just went crazy with the short game. That's not something you can predict. That's not a thing you want to see in Patrick Reed. And the form is just horrible. And if he does hold out everything, he does, but that's going to be his path to success. It's not going to be the ball striking.
A couple other names in the upper 7K or the upper 6K that I'm going to throw a couple darts at. JJ Spawn played good enough last week for me to say, yeah, I want some JJ Spawn this week. I don't think the win's going to be too much of a factor for him. Not going to really dig into all that. $6,700. Talked last night on the betting show. JJ Spawn to make the cut is boosted on Caesars to -110. Making the cut here isn't all that difficult. Like I said, if he plays anything like he was last week or anything that he showed us, even over the last 3-4 events, I think JJ Spawn's making the cut here at Augusta.
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing hitting the ball awesome, and it kind of came out of nowhere the past month because last memory I have of JJ Spawn was him getting his card at the Korn Ferry Finals, and then worked hard, got it, and now he's winning golf tournaments. So good for JJ Spawn. Happy to be here. I hope the moment's not too big because I know Augusta is, as your first time, could be a little bit big of a weight on your shoulder, but at -110 at a shortened field with names you said you can throw out. I think that's a good coin flip to take.
Now I got two guys at 6,700, both on my season long. I've seen flashes of optimism doing my research for both of them. Tell me if you have a preference or if you would rather have neither. Erik van Rooyen, Christian Bezuidenhout.
Okay.
Because they're
Driving,
fun.
they're fun. I love me some South Africans. Erik van Rooyen, I love his long irons. That's one thing I love. Christian Bezuidenhout is, if the wind picks up, he can win a short game contest versus anyone in the world. And it's just so either of them, depending on I feel like the weather is going to tell you what's going to happen with those. I like both of those guys though. Bez kind of struggles with the driver. I mean, it's not like he's going to miss fairways at Augusta, but he might be a little bit well back and have to do it with a short game. But that's right up his alley. And Van Rooyen, great long iron player. He can heat up with a putter from time to time. He strokes gain mustache. He rates out 1. So that's always a good bonus for EVR.
And the thing I saw for EVR that was interesting was the way he played at the Players. Third in the field in strokes gained tee to green, second to Russell Henley in strokes gained approach, and they both finished 13th. So seeing EVR pop from a strokes gained approach perspective, you can kind of date back to whatever. I mean, the last 4 events, he's gained strokes on approach. He's really been pretty consistent since his miscut at the Shriners, only missing the cut at API where he also gained strokes on approach. So I'm talking myself into EVR a little bit over Bez. Austin just said Bez because of the weather. Yeah, you could definitely make that case. 2020, I believe it was, Bez won back-to-back or 2 out of 3 events on the European Tour, which essentially pushed him into the top 50, giving him this chance at the Masters, giving him this chance to hold on to a PGA Tour card. I like both of them. They're both pretty fun. I'm going to sprinkle both. I don't know if I have much of a lean. Ownership-wise, it looks like they're both going to sit right around 5-6%. Could be lower, depending on how it all goes. But outside of that, Harold Varner III, talked about the win he had at Saudi when you were talking about Bubba, who had the second. I like HV3 in his debut here. If we want to go all the way down, Matt, real quick, I mentioned there's one guy who, if you're desperate and you have $6K left on DraftKings, Takumi Kanaya made it out of his pod in the WGC Dell match play. He's up into that top 64 in the world. He was, I think, one of, if not the lowest ranked player in that, and made it out of his pod. So that alone speaks to what Takumi Kanaya is able to do. We did see him at Valero struggle, which I don't love seeing. Obviously, you can't say a whole lot about his success on other tours, but looks like he's been hitting a lot of fairways. He's going to be accurate, but I don't know if that's the type of player we're really looking for. I'm just comparing Kanaya's pedigree to the rest of the guys at 6K flat, at 6,100 even. He stands out. He's the only guy that I would go to down there.
Talking about those South Africans, $6,300 Garrick Higgo. If we're going my driving distance narrative,
yep,
you might want to bet him 10-1 top South African because he's a lefty, young kid from UNLV, won at Palmetto last year. Absolutely has that ball on a rope. He is one of the best golf swings literally on tour. It looks all better from the left side always, but lefty, it's obviously going to be an advantage at Augusta because he's hitting fades. So, I mean, I'm not saying Garrick Higgo is going to do awesome. His form is really bad right now, but driving distance, if that's a key stat, that might help him a lot. And maybe throw him in your lineup. I might bet him 10-1 top South African just for sure.
Yeah, you could definitely do worse than Higgo. I mean, he hasn't been too impressive. Just got his PGA Tour card, obviously, this season off of the win at Palmetto. But like you said, a bomber, you can do worse down here at $6,300.
Right.
You're not looking for a whole lot down here. You're just looking for upside. I mean, you don't want to miss the cut, obviously, but at the same time, if you have a guy that possesses some type of upside like Higgo does, you can make the case for him. Lucas Herbert, another guy who I have some interest in, showed a lot at API, but he did it a lot around and on the greens, which I don't love. Had a win last fall, European Tour player who you would assume has played in these type of conditions. So can definitely do worse. But outside of that, that's basically what I got for the 6K range. Is there anybody else that you wanted to touch on outside of your bombers?
No,
What about Cam Davis? He's a bomber. You're not on him?
I was thinking about Cam Davis, but I just couldn't get there. I don't like him in his first start at Augusta. I'd rather go with like someone like Cam Champ, who's at least seen the grounds, or Wolf, who's at least seen the grounds. But Cam Davis, bomber, Australians do well here. I don't hate it at all. I just chose the other guy.
Fair enough. So we'll kind of go back down the board. Let's go through each range again. We'll rank our top three, 1 through 3, in order with based off of price and how much exposure that we're going to have to them. So if anybody missed it throughout the stream earlier, we'll do a little bit of a condensed version, and then we'll both pick a winner at the end. So 10K range, if I'm ranking my top 3 in order, I'm going Justin Thomas 1, Victor Hovland 2, Scotty Sheffler 3. Who do you got, Matt?
Rahm 1, Rory 2, Hovland 3.
All right, going to the 9K range. Little less guys, but we're going to go Spieth 1. I'm going to go Zelotaurus 2, and I hate cutting a lot of these guys out, but I'm going to go Cam Smith 3.
Okay, if I can go Bryson 3 times, I would. Bryson 1. I'll go Bryson 1. I'll go X 2, and then I'll go Will 3.
All right, on to the 8Ks. Lowry's 1 for me. Pretty massive drop off from that, and then I'm going to go Tyrell Hatton 2 and Neiman 3, but I don't love it.
Taylor Gooch, Tyrrell Hatton, Sam Burns.
7K range. Obviously, for me, I got a pretty solid top 3. Russell Henley and Billy Horschel, 1 and 2. I would put Horschel slightly ahead of Henley just because of the price point. And my third one in here, probably going to be Paul Casey.
I'll go Bubba, Siwoo, then I'll go Biho with you.
I like it. 6K, I think anyone that's been in here the last 10, 15 minutes is going to know where you're at. But my 6K ranking is Gary Woodland 1, far and away my favorite player in this range. Tom Hoge is my number 2. And 3, I'm going to go EVR.
All right, Champ, Wolf, and you sold me on Woodland.
Good to hear. So, Austin, thanks for coming. Appreciate you taking an hour plus to help us out. We will be here week in and week out. If one of us can't make it, we'll have rotating guests or whatnot. Outside of that, Matt, thanks for joining me. Look forward to the rest of the year.
Awesome.
Masters, what a year to kick off for fantasy points. Go subscribe using me or Matt's code. Mine's running across the bottom right now, but go to Matt's Twitter for sure to get his as well. Matt, thanks for joining me.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to do this on a weekly basis. Let's win some money together. Let's have an awesome year.
See ya.